part 4 of the academic and scientific writing presentation. So we've talked about some aspect of the introduction, but there are still more to talk about. So let's continue. Now, you need to think about the significance or the relevance of your work. This is an aspect where you capture what is the potential benefit of doing this work. Why is this work worth doing? Why is it important, and what are the implications of the findings? What could it be? Of what benefit is it going to be? So, to take care of these, I usually look at it also from 3 points. So when you are writing your significance, the significance of your work, you should look at what will you produce at the end of the work. For whom will this be useful? And how will it be useful? For what will it be useful? What can it be used for? So if you address these 3 questions, then you have a well-written significance of study. So what will you produce? Are you producing data? Are you producing new understanding about so? Are you producing a new methodology? For whom will this be useful? Is it going to be useful to policymaker in so sector, or is going to be useful for NGO or advocates in this section or in this area, or is going to be useful for scientists in so field of work or study? How will it be useful? What are they going to use it for? What are they likely to use it for? When you answer these 3 questions carefully and logically, then you have a very good and well-written significance of study. Now, the other aspect is the scope or delimitation, depends on what they call it within your area of work. Some might say scope, some might say delimitation. What this captures is a justification of what we have chosen, the factors you have chosen that are under the control of under your control for the study. It could be the area you're studying. So remember, the scope or delimitation captures a statement on and justification for the factors that you have chosen that are under your control for your research work. It could be the area you have chosen. It could be the population, the theoretical approach you are selecting, and the time you are selecting, the period. So when you are writing your scope, you should think at it also from 3 perspectives. Tell us the geographical scope. What is the area that you are studying, or the population you are studying? Tie it to a location or a place. Temporal scope, which time, what is the duration under examination? And then contextual scope. What are the theoretical or conceptual issues that you are going to focus on? Remember my example on social vulnerability. So I'm saying that I'm only focusing on the social vulnerability aspect of vulnerability. I'm not doing the biophysical vulnerability. I'm not doing the economic vulnerability or infrastructural vulnerability. I'm focusing on social vulnerability. So it's important to define these 3 things in your scope. Okay? Geographical scope, temporal scope, and contextual scope. I've seen some work where people make mistake and put limitation in chapter 1. Limitation should come at the end of your work. It is when you have finished your work that you write your limitation. You cannot know the limitation of your work until you have executed the project. you have carried out the investigation. So please remember, I always reiterate it. Anything within the scientific method, we always have a logical reason for doing it. Okay? Limitations captures the things that are outside of your control. It could be in terms of funding, it could be in time, it could be all other things. For example, maybe you are going to specify the limitation of the conclusion of the conclusions of how to draw conclusion. Let me give you an example. If you have carried out your work in a specific area and you know that there are some specific circumstances of that area that may limit the generalizability of that work, then you can say one of the limitations of this work is that we focused only on this group of people. Therefore, it will be unwise to generalize for these other type of people who may also be among the general population of this sample that we have drawn. So limitations comes at the end of the work, not in chapter 1, while you are still conceptualizing the work. So that brings us to the end of what you need to write for chapter 1. We'll move on to chapter 2 in the next video. So remember, I didn't touch all the aspects. There might be some aspect that is still expected of you in your department or in your field, but I've broadly gone through everything that is important for your chapter 1 to make your chapter 1 robust and well structured and easy for people to understand what you are trying to do. Remember, if you are introducing your work and it's not interesting, how are you going to get somebody to read the other part of the work? So there is no second chance to make a first impression. Your topic, your title, your structure of your chapter 1, the way you wrote your chapter 1 is going to entice people to read your work. Even if you are writing a journal article, your introduction is also very important. It entices people, it stimulates people to read other parts of your work.